Now I am live over in the dark waters, and everybody else can hear me now because how I had the audio set up. Hey, folks, can you hear me? AJK. Looks like I'm live over on YouTube, definitely, and the YouTube channel, and over on my Facebook channel and Twitter. So how'd to do? How'd to do? Got AJK. Hopefully, we've got everybody in here. Let me just give me a 1 if you can hear me. 2 if you can't. 3, 3 if it's a maybe. But yeah, it looks like everybody can hear me. I can see what's going on there. Hey, Lakea, what's going on? We got James in the chat. AJK. What else is in here? Julie, Edward. God bless you, Tina. And all the fantastic people. Thomas, what's going on? Hear you loud and clear. All right, on the phone. Back at my popular demand, Astra demander. Sue has been with me for the past 2 shows, and I think we've done about 3 hours per show. And Saturday night show. Sue, how long were we, I know we were on for about 3 hours that show, but how long did we talk after the show? It was hours.
3-4 hours.
3-4, yeah. It was just crazy long. And we both just had a ball talking to each other. We exchanged stories left and right, and I was like, actually, I didn't say anything. It was like, what, 3 a.m. When I said, hey, I'm just tired. I got to go bed.
Yeah.
So I think that yesterday I called her and said, hey, Sue, would you like to be back on the show? I know you got tons of other stories to tell. We touched on Dogman for 6 hours, more or less. I know you've got a lot of ghost stories, some UFO stuff, and some. What is the first thing that pops in your mind when I say, "Hey, Sue, what would you like to talk about?" What would that?
Oh my goodness, everything just flashed in my mind.
This is the reason why I've got her back for a 3rd show, folks.
Oh man, I'm good for anything. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, I'm all about whatever everybody would like to hear. Well, more of the same or something different.
I want to go down and test the waters on a ghost.
All right.
What's a good ghost story you got? What did you personally see or experience or whatever?
Okay. The earliest memory would be I would be 6 years old. I spoke. I kind of breezed over this particular story. I mean, literally just touched on it once, and I don't know if we were talking off air or on air. But I was 6 years old, and in kindergarten, my teacher thought that she used the term immature to my parents and said that it would behoove them to place me in a transition class, which would be just like another year of school prior to sending me to 1st grade, because she told them that I was disruptive to the class, that I wouldn't pay attention, I was too busy playing, when in fact, when we were doing handwriting and cursive and everything, I did it with ease and breeze. I always went ahead of what she asked for, and that to her was inappropriate. So that's how I got handled. Now, moving forward to the following school year, they sent me to a school called Lincoln School. And it's a very old building. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was used for back in the day. Now it is it changed hands a few years ago and became the one of the Native American tribes up there's place. They bought it, and then apparently they sold it to the city, and they turned it into the historical center. Back in the day, that's where those of us children they felt were immature or needed extra learning, what have you, got placed in. So when you come up to the school by the sidewalk, there was big double heavy doors, and you'd walk into a hall, and there was classrooms No lockers. There's just classrooms on either side of the hallway in both directions. If you
Mm-hmm.
rode the school bus behind the school, because it was 2 levels. In the basement area, they'd come around the back off of Highway 28, and they'd bring the school buses in, and those students would enter the building from there. I, my mom used to walk me to school, even though it was a little bit of a walk. She'd walk me to school nonetheless, and take me in the front doors and drop me off. So one day, and this was probably within the first week, I had about 15 to, I believe there was 15 to 20 of us in this class. And she was a wonderful teacher. I can picture her in my mind, but I cannot remember her name. And she took a shine to me, and I would help her with other students. So one afternoon, she asked me if I would take some paperwork and classroom work into the office
Okay.
and just give it to them and have me come back in the class. So when you walked out of my classroom, you'd take a right, and the next door was actually the school's office. So when I walked in there, there were 4 women, 2 behind the wooden desk, and then 2, standing right in front of me. And one lady noticed me, and I thought she was a teacher there. She was dressed like these ladies, and I thought that they could see her too. So she asked, how could she help me? And I said, I need to drop these papers off for my teacher. She asked me to, bring them in. And she asked which class. I said, the one next to the office. And she said, okay. And she took them from me. And then she asked me to do her a favor. So I said, yes. She told me that she needed me to go out the front doors because the downstairs doors would be locked. I needed to go out the front door, go out to the right, down the hill, to the back of the building, and there was a side screen door with a brass handle that would be open. And I was to open that door up and walk in there and go into the kitchen and get something for her. She said, you would know what it was. And I, didn't question it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. So I walked out of the office, walked down the hall, out the front doors, across the front yard, down the hillside, around the back, and into that particular door. Had no problem finding it. When I opened the door up, it was dark. There was no lights on or anything. And what it looked like was like a cafeteria or a gym floor. I could tell it was wood floor, but there were no lights on. It was pitch dark. And the only light you could see is if you looked left towards the back, you could tell it was a kitchen because there was a doorway that didn't have a door. And then there was like a counter window open and the light was on. So as I'm walking into the door, I started heading that direction. And then I seen a man. I couldn't quite make him out, but I knew he was an older adult, about my grandparents' age back then. And I seen him, I don't know where he came from, but he started walking from my right to the left. And I knew that he was heading into the kitchen area. So I called out to him. I said, excuse me, sir. I need to come pick something up from the lady in the office or for the lady in the office. And he couldn't hear me. But when he got into the doorway, he was, still dark shaded enough where I couldn't quite make him out. I mean, he was solid, but I couldn't quite make out what he looked like. And he stopped and he turned to his left. He didn't face me. He just, from facing the back of him, he turned to his left. And he said, just go back up there and tell her that she has to come down and get it from me herself.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, so I turned around, walked back out the door, up the side of the hill, across the yard, right back into the double doors. And as I was going to walk into the office, one of the office ladies that I seen in that office when I brought those papers in, seen me. And she asked me, honey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be in class. And I said, well, the lady in the office, I said, my teacher asked me to bring papers into the office. And she said, who's your teacher? And I said, I pointed at the door to the immediate right. I said, that one. And she goes, well, where's the papers? I said, I brought them in. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, I brought them in. I handed it to the other lady. She goes, what other lady? And I described her with darker, like dark brown, very dark brown, short hair, not quite shoulder length, but very curly. And she had dark glasses on, and she had a blouse and a skirt, right? A long skirt on. And I handed them to her. Well, this lady thought I was lying to her. I could tell because, her mannerisms changed. She got more stern, and she grabbed me by my left arm and took me to my teacher's room door, opened it up, called the teacher out into the hallway, and had her close the door behind her. And she said, is this one of your students? And she goes, yes, that's Susie, blah, blah, blah. And she says, well, this little girl is trying to tell me that you gave her paperwork to bring into the office and drop it off. She said, yes, I did. And she looked at me. She goes, honey, why is it taking you so long? And I went to answer her and this other lady, because I guess back in the day, they knew everything, said, so she was supposed to bring paperwork in. You did send her. Yes. Well, when did you send her? She goes, about 10, 15 minutes ago. She goes, well, she didn't come into the office and she didn't bring us any paperwork. And so my teacher said, just give me a second. And my teacher bent down at the knee and she said, honey, I need you to tell me what you did. I said, I took the papers you gave me. I closed the door of the classroom. I walked into the office. There was 4 women, 2 behind the counter and 2 in front of the counter. And the lady right in front of me that I just described, I don't know her name, but she asked me how she could help me, and I told her that you sent me in here to bring these papers in, and she took them from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asked me to do her a favor, and that was to go out the front door, go across the yard to the right, go down the hill, around the back, and into the green door with the brass handle, and go into the kitchen because she left, or somebody was leaving her something there and she needed it. And now you can understand, as I'm saying this, my teacher's listening to me and her eyes were getting bigger, but the older woman from the office was completely convinced I was making this up and I was playing games and I wasn't listening, and she wanted me punished. So my teacher and her got into a face-off, a proverbial nose to nose, red-faced. Now, they didn't use any cuss words, but they were very firm. So my teacher said, I'll be right with, Miss whatever her name was. I think it was Reka or something. I'll be right with you. This student needs to come back into class. So she brought me in and sat me down at the table and got me up to speed. She walked out. Now, the end of the day came, and like the other kids, I was grabbing my stuff. You have like a little hook in what looked like handmade wooden lockers without doors on them. And you'd have a little box and you keep, little things in there, and your lunch, if you had a lunch box or whatever, it get placed there. So I was collecting my things, and my teacher told me, no, Susie, your mom's coming to get you, and we're going to have a quick meeting. So I need you to sit right here. Okay. I said, okay. So all the other students leave. My teacher walks out of the room, looks down the hall, sees my mom, close the door. They go into the office. You could hear loud voices, but you couldn't quite make them out. So my teacher comes back to get me, walks me down the hall, and there's painted portraits of prior teachers, people that were very important to the school, throughout its operation. And she says to me, and now there was her, my mother, the nasty lady from the office, and 2 other people. And one of them was a gentleman that was a janitor.
Mm-hmm.
And she says to me, I need you to point out if there's a picture, if there is a portrait of this lady you handed my paperwork to, I need you to point her out. And I was like, huh? She goes, it's okay. It's okay. Just go ahead. And I looked at my mom. My mom's like, just go ahead and do what the teacher asked you to do. I said, okay. So I was walking along and I was looking left and right. And there was about 3 painted portraits, good sized ones, between these 2 other classroom doors. And I pointed up at the furthest one to the right and I said, that lady right there. Now, the teacher from not teacher, but the lady from the office said, she's making that up. It's because she seen it before and described her and made up the skirt and all this other stuff, right? Like I said, she wasn't having it. She thought I was being bad and needed to be punished. And my mother said, this child doesn't lie. And my teacher said, that child isn't lying. She goes, well, it can't be her because she's been dead some 30 years. And my mom said, well, you know what they say about young children. They see things sometimes that adults don't. That doesn't mean anything. And my teacher took up for me, right? And now it's starting to get out of hand again. So the janitor man says, just a second. And he walks over to the janitor closet. And he comes out with, folded in half papers. And he says to my teacher, are these your papers that everybody's so upset about? And she looks at him. She goes, yeah, these are the papers. Where did you find them? He said, earlier, just after lunch, because see, we didn't go to the cafeteria for lunch, right? You had lunch in your classroom. He goes, Miss Raker, whatever her name was, came up to me and told me, was jumping his case, right? She was getting on to him that he didn't make sure certain doors were locked as he was supposed to, unless he was in there cleaning, right? They were supposed to be locked and chained and padlocked. And he was telling her, yes, they are and always are, period. And so she forced his hand. So he took that woman and another lady, was another office worker that I was seeing behind the desk. And the 2 or 3 of them went down outside the building, down around the back. And sure enough, the green painted door with the brass handle, like push handle or whatever, was there. It was locked. And the chain was still there with the padlock. So, yep. No, that ain't the end of it. So now the other lady goes, well, I think I've seen enough. She was getting upset thinking like this lady is like, she needs some time off, I guess. So they got into a bit of conflict. And then she said to the janitor gentleman, I need you to unlock this door and go inside with us. And this child said that the only light on was the one in the kitchen. So he unlocks the chain, right? Unlocks the door, pushes it open, and sure as shit, that light was on. So he turned on a flashlight to go across that long floor with the 2 women in tow. And when they walked through the door, on the stainless steel counter was that teacher's paperwork.
Huh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Haunted school.
Apparently, yeah, it's called the Lincoln School. It was named after, obviously, Abraham Lincoln. And that, like I said, that building's been, it was 18 something or other that I believe it was erected. They have those stones on old buildings where it gives like the date or the year. And like I said, after that, I never went back to that school, at the end of that year. I got put into the 1st grade after that. But matter of fact, it was supposed to be a whole school year But it was that winter, because that was, like I said, we were in the fall when we started. We started like August up there. And there was still snow on the ground when I was done with that school. And the next Labor Day, I started first grade.
Wow. So, were there any other stories, sightings?
Yes.
In that school?
That was my, from what I understood, because when I went through that transition class, right, and I started first grade,
Right.
Certain students, I couldn't tell you exactly, Shawn, really, how it came to be. But there was a gentleman who was an art teacher, highly respected. He wasn't just an art teacher, he was also a singer, and he played guitar, and he was very good. And they started a summer school type thing for, I don't know if it was children with special abilities or what the crap it was, but there was about 12 of us, and our parents signed it up. It was free to me because for whatever reason, apparently, this teacher I had back then was good friends with Mr. Evans. So she had a conversation with him about it, you know, what had happened and everything, saying that that's such a crock of crap. That child has got some kind of ability, and she's very sweet and she's super smart, you know. So I would like to put her into your program. I used to have to pay for that. She said, but you know, I would, if it's okay with you, I would pay out of my own pocket for her to take your art class. You know, we would travel to different areas of the county and learn how to draw and sketch and you name it. So Mr. Evans was so intrigued. He had a conversation, a meeting with my mom, and then me. It was like a half day, you know, it's like the end of the year where you only had like a half a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited. And my mom's like, well, we really can't afford that, you know. I had 3 children, we're remodeling the house. And they said, don't worry about it, it's free. And she's like, okay, then, you know, I agree. And so my mom had to bring me to the middle school, which is literally not quite a block and a half from my parents' house, right? I went to the elementary school and middle school there. And different building. But so we'd meet there, and then your parents would drop you off, and then Mr. Evans would be there early. And there would be a school bus with a school bus driver that would take us on these field trips. And for whatever reason, Mr. Evans went around introducing himself to all the kids so they knew who he was and what their name was and stuff. And he had a conversation with me before we got on the bus, and he said, you know, and I'm sure you're aware because you're an intelligent child. He goes, I'm, you know, very, very close personal friend of your teacher. And she told me what had happened that day. And I just want you to know that this adult, not just her, but myself, completely believe you. And I'm going to tell you why. He said, certain children over the years have pointed out the same woman or the same gentleman, but never downstairs in the kitchen. It was always somewhere upstairs in the hallway, and would at some point talk to the teacher or tell the teacher or tell a parent, you know, and then the parent be like, what? And then, you know, call, you know, go to the school and ask, are you letting people just willy-nilly walk through this class? Even though it was open, you know what I mean? Things were a lot more innocent, you know. Everything wasn't so front page back then. But and he told me he believed me, and I absolutely believe he believed me. And he would tell me, you know, he didn't get into too many details. He just wanted me to know that that woman and that man had been seen in and around that school, not just by, you know, a student here and there, but also by other teachers and staff. He goes, most staff members, like janitors and certain teachers, would get spooked because they'd see them, there, and next second they're not, or watch them walking through walls, and they would, they'd quit.
So
But apparently, after that year, they didn't use that school anymore.
So there was more than one person, a few 6 or 7 or 3 or whatever, saw the same thing over and over again.
The same two individuals.
Okay.
The same two, I guess, souls or spirits, the man and the woman, not always together, but at different times. No student had ever gone down the stairs, gone outside and then into that cafeteria. And I forgot how many years he said. It was never used except once in a while when the teachers would have a parent student day or whatever. They used the kitchen then, but strictly never after that. That was rare they did that. So it was always locked up unless he went there to, dust or
whatever,
clean the floors or things like that. Yes. So mostly once in a while a janitor, and then a couple of the staff, like the teachers throughout the years would see these two people. And then some of the teachers that seen this lady were ones that knew this woman personally. Knew she had passed away, and then hello, she, comes walking through the walls. Yeah. So it wasn't just me, and it has been. Apparently, from what it was explained to me as a 6-year-old, that was an ongoing process. But I was the only one. Student, faculty, didn't matter. I was the only one that had that story of leaving the school and going into the back of the school to a door that is always locked and always chained, because that's the only entrance to get to it. You couldn't get to it from a staircase, from upstairs down. You had to use that particular door. And they couldn't, for the life of themselves, understand how I gave this, what I said was a teacher. Well, she's transparent. No, she's just like you and me. And I handed these things to her. And then she sent me down there as do her a favor. When I handed them to her upstairs in the office, they end up in the kitchen on a stainless steel tabletop. And that light is never left on.
Now, this is up in Michigan, right?
Yes, this is my hometown. I grew up in.
Wow.
Yes.
Spooky.
Okay. So, that's where I guess I was explained to me, as you might say, from an adult to a child, ghosts. You know what I mean? Because I didn't see them as ghosts. They were everybody, just like anybody else. They weren't see-through. She took the papers from me.
Now, I
couldn't see through her.
I have seen ghosts in this house that I go from that are definitely not see-through. They are just as solid as a rock as you or I or whoever that's listening to the podcast, radio show, whatever you want to call it. To the point where it blocks out light. I saw one probably about an hour ago. I forgot to tell you that. I was like, okay, who the hell are you? And get the hell out in the name of Jesus Christ. And I don't know, but it was
I absolutely, I believe it. You know what I mean? I know.
Son of a gun. My door frames, the top of the door is like 8 foot tall. I gotta remeasure and make sure. It's at least 8 feet from the floor up to the top of the door. This thing was about that tall. Crazy.
Did this individual look proportionate? Just like they were just, tall. Like I told you, I have an Uncle Steve that's over 7 feet tall.
This thing, it was actually, I was coming into this bedroom where I'm doing the show from. Yeah. I had, I was setting up for the show, connecting both my Macs together and, make sure, I can, everything was kosher. I flipped around I had a couple of iPad or whatever. I looked, and this thing was looking around the corner at me with the door open.
Like, you're in my house. What are you doing in here? Who are you?
Oh yeah. This old house has been haunted since the day I've been in it, and I've seen some haunted stuff in it before. My family bought this place 30+ years ago. Who knows what's in here?
Right.
Yeah, another place that was haunted. Have you? Somebody. I was on a podcast, Typical Skeptic. I
Right.
forgot the guy's name right off the top of my head. Robert Khalil. I was on his show last night, and he was asking me, "Where was the most haunted place you've ever been consistently?" I said, "Hospital or my house." Whichever one is that? Have you ever run into a ghost at a hospital?
Have I?
Yeah, you.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. I certainly did. And apparently, the lady I seen, and I believe I spoke on this, like I said, I believe it was on a live phone call. But anyway, now I told you, what I just told you about the Lincoln School
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was I was 6 years old. I was hospitalized with double pneumonia when I guess I had it twice. My mom tells me I had it twice, so I don't think so. But, of course, she's an adult and I was a little kid. I was speaking about the skinwalker, and that's what I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
The night that me, my dad, my sister, brother, my cousin, my uncle, and his girlfriend, and there was another uncle there, and I can't remember who it was. We're camping out on the beach, and this beach isn't sand or grass. This beach is stone, and the mossy area is where we pitched the tents.
Okay.
Not us kids, but the adults. And I told you about the, letting my brother sleep between myself and my cousin Joey, and then, not touching the sides of the tent because of the fabric. I guess the fabric back then, because my dad was absolutely adamant that nobody put a finger, a toe, a hand, or anything on the inside of the tent when it was raining, because it would, for whatever reason, and however it worked, would cause the rain to come, pool up inside the tent and run down the sides and then pool up on the floor and get everything wet. And then the quote unquote animal that I didn't see, but heard sniffing around.
Oh.
You remember? And then the
remember
next morning being really cold and wanting to warm up by the fire, and then the Indian chief standing on the rocks, who didn't speak to me, verbally, but
what I
had me
thought
come
that
over.
other people thought was that was a skinwalker. But you never saw never saw whatever was on the other side of the tent. You punched at it.
Oh, I flicked it on the nose first, and then I got so mad because it was trying to, dig into the tent, and it was shoving its face. Well, not like a human face, but animal face. Like I said, like not a dog, but like a coyote or a wolf.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the muzzle, right in by my head, right at my face, because at this point I'm sitting up facing the tent, side of the tent, not right up against it, but away from it, and it pushed its face right there because I kept telling it to shush. You're gonna wake people up. You're gonna wake everybody up. I'm gonna get in trouble. Cut it out. Stop it. Leave me alone. And it wouldn't, and decided to shove its, facing on me, and it had made it like it was displeased with me, and like a kind of a growly sound. And that's when I got so mad I punched it dead in the nose. And then it started to dig at the edge of the tent where my head was when I'd lay on a pillow, except it didn't dig at the tent, it was digging under it.
Ooh, okay.
And it, just inevitably, after I gave it a good old whack, it made like this, like an animal sneeze, like, dog sneeze. So literally like that sound, but it wasn't a dog. I just knew it wasn't a dog. So as it did that, it decided to, like huff or whatever, like it was disgusted. And I can honestly tell you, I don't remember it coming up to the tent, and I don't remember hearing it walk away from the tent. Period. Period. And then
That's crazy.
the next morning, seeing the, the Native American chief standing at the edge of the rock, watching the sun, raise with him, and then my Uncle Terry's girlfriend Cindy, coming out and yelling at me to get away from the edge of the rock and to come over there. And of course, so I walk over there. What's the big deal? And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was cold, and I was trying to warm up, and then the man. And she said, "What?" And I said, "The man." And I was talking to the man. She goes, "What man?" And I'm like, "Well, you're talking within seconds of turning my back to him." And I went, I turned with my finger point, and I said, "That man." And I was going to say goodbye to him, and he wasn't there. And then I got taken home a couple hours later because I was coughing so hard.
But you saw this man, this Indian,
Mm-hmm.
right before.
He's definitely Indian, buddy. He was definitely a Native American, 100%.
Did he have a headdress with feathers, or?
Yes, okay. yes. He was dark tan. Okay, he didn't have a shirt on. All right, and he was bare feet.
Oh. Okay.
And he had like buckskin. I call it buckskin because of the color, and it was leather, right? Like leather pants, and on the two sides, going from like the hip down, just above the ankle, had short leather fringes, and on those fringes had different colored beads. Okay, and on his arms, above his biceps, both arms, he had what looked like very fancy handmade beaded bands. And on the back sides of the forearm, right, attached to those bands were two eagle feathers, white and black eagle feathers. And his headdress was absolutely beautiful. It was all, I do mean every last feather, was a black and white eagle feather. And on the front of it, right, taping around towards the back by the ears, where it starts to come together behind his head towards, like, between his neck and his shoulders, was all eagle feathers. The front ones were the biggest, or the longest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then about just a few inches shorter, coming around to the back, and down, all the way down his back, right? And they came together just before, like I'd say, around his ankles, and then it dragged onto the ground about a good foot or so behind that. And on the like, oh my gosh, what would you call that? On the headdress, right? Yeah. Where it, like, so it kind of holds to the head or whatever, was the same matching pattern and colored beads that were on his armband around his biceps. And his hair was jet black. I mean, like blue black, just beautiful, healthy. He looked very, young, a young man. I even know then he was a young man. He was an adult, but he was a young man. And he was, when I seen him, his back was to me, right? And he's facing north. So I started walking up to him going, "Hello, hello, hello. Hi, my name is Sue. Hi, hello." And he didn't turn his body, okay? He just turned his head to the left. And I could see he was watching me, right? He seen me. And he seen me, and he motioned. Now you gotta understand, his arms are crossed at the front, right? And with his right hand, right, was placed on his bicep of his left bicep, just below the beaded armband thing. And he picked his hand up, and while he's still looking at me, using his fingers, he telling me to come over. So I did. He was watching me the whole time. And when I got so close to him, then with that same hand he motioned to me, he put his hand flat up and down as to say stop. So I stopped. And I didn't ask him anymore. I just, said stop. And then he's looking at me, and with his right hand, and his index finger, he pointed on the horizon. Okay? Pointing at the horizon. And then he's looking at me, pointing, and he, you know, like, you see what I'm saying? You know, you see what I'm looking at? And I nodded my head, yes. He wanted me to stand there and watch the sunrise. So as soon as I looked forward, now you got to understand, I'm a few feet behind him to his left, right? On a slight angle behind him to his left. Not right up against him or anything. He didn't want me to stand right slap next to him. So close enough. And I understood that he wanted me to stand there and watch the sun come up with him. So I sat there quietly, and he put his hand, you know, right hand back on his left bicep where he had it before, resting there, and he stared out at the horizon. So I did the same thing. I crossed my arms quietly, and I stood there watching the sun come up. I don't know how much time had passed. I really don't. I couldn't even guess. And then the sky was filling up with the yellowish, reddish, golden colors of the sun coming up off Lake Superior, just to the other side of Grand Island. Grand Island was off to the right, and the sun was coming up over Lake Superior. And just as the sun's, you know, like maybe a quarter up into the sky, coming up over the lake, that's when I heard a tent unzip behind me. I didn't turn around just yet. I heard the tent unzip, and I knew it had to be the adult tent because it unzipped a long ways, you know, it wasn't real short. And that's when I heard Cindy, my Uncle Terry's girlfriend, go, Susie, get over here. What are you doing, honey? You're too close to the rocks. Get over here. So I turned, you know, I've been talked to. I turned and looked at her. She's like, what are you doing? Get over here. Get away from the edge of the rocks. And I said, I'm talking to the man. And she goes, what man? And I turned to point. I said, him, I'm telling him goodbye. And I'm just, you know, well, he ain't there. You know, shrugged my shoulders. You know, guess he's gone. She's like, get over here, get over here. So I did. I walked over to her. And then she said, you stand right there. And then, you know, pulls the big zipper on that bigger tent open, and she's yelling at my dad and my Uncle Terry and everything, just making a ruckus. It was chaos. They come running out. What the hell's going on? Something about Susie talking to some man. Where is she? Where is she? She's right here. Oh my God. You know, and they come out with their pistols and their sidearms, and they're ready to take somebody down, I guess. I thought, how crazy these people are. And they started looking around real frantically, running over here and going over by the cars and then looking around like where this person could gone. And that's when Cindy, you know, stood in front of me, and she knelt down in front of me, put her hands on either side of my shoulders. And she goes, honey, you need to tell me what the man looked like. And I told her. And that's when she said, never mind, never mind. She stood up, right? Never mind, guys, never mind. Never mind. And they're like, you know, what? And she goes, never mind. I'll explain later. And I thought, that just doesn't make no sense. I was, you know, I didn't have a problem saying whatever. And she just, for whatever reason, that was the end of it. Then, you know, in a couple of hours, I started getting a very wet, croupy cough. I couldn't tell you where it came from. It just did. And it was getting to the point where it was annoying to me as a child because it was like I couldn't catch my breath, you know, and it was like, yeah, all raspy. So, and I wasn't feeling very good. And I climbed into the tent. I laid down, and then that's when Cindy decided she was going to take me into town because she knew my mom was at my grandma's. And then from there, you know, she didn't want me out there no more. So she decided to take me into town herself, you know. So she put me into the front passenger seat of her car, and off we went. So when we got off the two-rut road onto the main highway, and when you get out to the highway, you have to make a left in order to get to town. So she turns onto the road. I don't know. I don't think it was that long before she started asking me more questions. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to know everything. And I'm like, you know, she said, well, she goes, forget about the Indian brave, or I can't remember if she said brave or chief, but needless to say, the Indian man. Forget about him. You know, I need you to tell me, did you hear or see or anything like that out of the ordinary last night when you went to bed, you know, after all of us were gone to bed? You know, I need everything. And I told her, you know, my brother woke me up. He was kind of whining that he was cold. So I let him crawl over the top of me to sleep between me and Joey, right? And I told him I need a little bit of the blanket and a little bit of the pillow, so I could have something to put my head on. The rocks, even in the tent, the rocks were hard, to lay on. And I remember it wasn't raining heavy, but it was raining enough to notice, and enough for even the rain, and the tree limbs that overhang the tent, were, you could tell it was the rain coming off of those, because it was in bigger drips and drabs. And the adults already gone to bed, because there was no talking and laughing and carrying on outside. And so I was like, I laid back on my back, and I fell asleep. And then I woke up to hearing a large animal sniffing close to the tent. It wasn't like right up against it, but it was like, you could tell it was walking closer. It was getting closer as it was sniffing, and just sniff, 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 sniff. And I thought, So I kind of sat up, and I looked to my immediate left, because that's where the side of the tent was. That's where I was laying. And I don't remember hearing any footfalls, like little feet, like animal walking or anything. But I heard the sniff, 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 sniff. And I went, shh, stop it. You're going to wake them up, and I'm going to get in trouble. Go away. Be quiet. And when I said that, it's when the sniffing was like right on the other side of the fabric. The nylon or whatever it was. It was my dad's tent when he was in the military in Vietnam. That's how old that tent was. And he came back from there in, I think it was 1968, somewhere fall or some shit like that. I'd have to look at his DD 214, but it was in, around that era. So but anyhow,
did that tent have cellophane in it, or what was it? It was burlap.
It was not a web nylon. It was thinner, and it was more like a satiny feeling to it. It was rough but smooth, and it was like it was aged, so it was kind of yellowish, brownish color. Even then, I knew it was old, because everything's old when you're that little. Oh, you're an old man. And it was my dad. It was like a one-man tent.
Yeah.
Which they had to the right. They pitched it, and then next to it, almost flat next to it, on the left-hand side of it, was the adults, like 5 or 6 man tent. It was a big tent.
Yep. Hey, do you care if the Vol Nightmares calls in for just a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Come on,
Vol. Call in 931-994-6917. You're good to go, brother. Love to hear from you. I'll get you all kind of hooked up together here. Go for it.
Alrighty.
But how big was that wolf, dog, whatever that was outside that tent that you flipped its nose and then picked it on its neck?
Well, at first when I heard it, right, I said before, I knew it wasn't a dog, because none of us brought dogs out with us, right?
Right.
And where we were camping, you're talking several miles in either direction to anybody's home. And people, out in that area, those dogs were in kennels, in the house, or tied to a dog house.
Right.
They didn't let animals roam, because you'd get a ticket, because they had to have the vaccinations and a license, county tag. And they were, back then, there were very strict laws when you had dogs.
All right.
They had to be leashed. They had to have collars. They had to have.
Hey, Walt, are you there?
Oh yeah, man, I'm here.
All right. Finally got you on board here. So what's going on, brother? We got Sue.
Oh, nothing much.
AKA
Your caller was interested. Your guest was interested me a lot.
All right. Go right ahead.
Where do you mind if I ask where again this took place at? If you don't care, state, don't get too.
Yeah, Michigan. It was the state of Michigan, but the Upper Peninsula, north of the Mackinac Bridge.
Okay,
It
I
was
know the
on
area.
Lake Superior. Lake
Yeah,
Superior.
that's what I was going to say, on the edge waters of the Lake Superior.
Yes, about slap in the middle of the state.
All right, Shawn, do you remember when my oldest boy was up there and I'd called you? He'd called me one night and something large with red eyes had run across the road up there and caused a wreck. He was hung in the traffic jam. That's up in that area right there.
Was that when all that craziness happened down in Middle or East Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's weird because, like I said, he told me what he was walking through there talking and listening to him. Some people were saying it was a bear, but a lot of them were saying that it looked like a giant canine with red eyes run across the road and caused a major wreck right there in that area right there. I forgot the road right there that it's on, but it's a major road that goes through there and goes across up into what is the name of that there? I cannot remember the name of that little area.
Did it run east to west or north to south?
I think it was north to south.
Okay.
Because it came towards the lake.
Okay. Well, we've got one of the major veins, let's call it, a U.S. highway.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Heavily traveled would be like Highway 13. I mean, there's a different ones. It depends on exactly where in the Upper Peninsula he was heading, from and to.
Well, they were headed back down to Lake Erie. I cannot remember the little town right there off of Lake Erie they were living at, but they were headed back down towards Lake Erie. So I do know that. I do remember that because there's a little town right there that you can look out over and see Lake Erie because the Port Patrol wasn't. Yeah, that's it.
St. Marie.
They were headed. They were headed back down that area. They lived up there for about 9 months or so. And like I said, I just happened to remember that's why I was talking. I was sitting there thinking that reminds me of when he told me that had happened. And like I said, and I'd called Shawn and was talking to Shawn, and he was walking up down the road. He said there wasn't nothing else to do, so he was walking up down the road trying to figure out what happened. And everybody was talking about the large creature that had run across the road in front of the truck that caused a major truck accident.
Oh yeah, there was, I've seen a lot of strange things up there, and they were
Lake Erie,
not like a Bigfoot, but what's dubbed now Dogman. But back in the day, we'd call it werewolves because we didn't know. We didn't never hear the term. I personally did not hear the term Dogman until 2015.
Yeah, I think it was 2016 when I heard it. Now I'd heard of the Michigan Dogman, but I thought that was just relevant to Michigan, and I didn't know exactly what they were seeing. But I hadn't heard of the Dogman until 2016. Hadn't, as much as I've been in the bushes and all over the world, I'd never come across anybody talking about a wolf creature except for Michigan. And then you got the Rougarou and the Lougarou down in New Orleans.
Yeah. When I started looking into because I haven't oh Jesus, I live in Florida now. But I'm up from the Upper Peninsula.
What part of
born and raised up
there. What part of Florida? Because I'm sitting in Florida right now.
I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Citrus County. They call it the Nature Coast.
Yeah, I'm sitting right outside of Tampa. I'm sitting over by the Green Swamp.
Okay, you're south of me by depending exactly anywhere from now. See if now they got these new expressways and everything they've been building the last 10, 20 years, so you can get on it and, do toll by plate, or like I've got a Sun Pass, you can get to like Tampa in 25 to 30 minutes, depending on what area you're going to.
I'm right on the outskirts. I'm in between Tampa and I forgot the name of the city, or township, but I'm right next door to the Green Swamp.
Okay. I know.
I can throw a baseball. I can throw a baseball and hit the Green Swamp with it. I can tell you that.
Wow.
And I'm fixing to start hanging cameras in the Green Swamp.
Really? What are you going to run that through from your house over there? or how you going to do that?
Well, it's going to be tied to the same system, and then I'm going to have game cameras. And what I'm going to do is upload those just straight to the channel. Whatever comes off the SD card, that's what's going straight up to the channel. I'm fixing to fire the channel back up again. I just had to get some other stuff fixed and sorted through. And I'm in the process of getting a laptop because I need to be a little bit more mobile and one of those little podcasting stations so I can set up and do podcasts from the Green Swamp.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Nice.
Like I said, I thought about actually retiring, doing some other stuff, but everybody keeps messaging, wanting me to keep doing some more stuff. So I said, well, why not? It may not be as many shows as what I was doing, but I guarantee you when I do put something up, you're going to have fun with it. And if you hadn't bought your ticket to to Wolf's LBL conference, you might want to buy one because I got some fun stuff planned.
Oh, man, I'd love to go to something like that.
So what do you got? Some film or pictures or what?
I'm going to keep that under my hat for them to find out they're going to have to be there. But I do know that Mr. Don Johnson is going to be there, and he's going to be doing a live stream from the conference. Bass and Truth are going to be there. They're going to do a live stream from the conference. And if I get everything together like I want, I'm going to be doing a live stream from the conference. And I'm probably going to have a couple of special guests on there from the conference.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That, and like I said, I got some special treats for the conference. But for them to find out what it is, they gotta come.
There you go.
I want to see a sea of Nightmare Nation people out there.
Hell yeah!
Hey, it ain't very far from you, good old buddy. You never know. I might have to swing by there and confiscate you.
Well, Paris, Tennessee.
Yeah.
How far? Paris, Tennessee is a few hours from me.
Well, you never know. I get around pretty good. Hell, I was just up that way in Chattanooga, and I forgot where else I was. Chattanooga, over in Alabama, Georgia, a couple places back still in the upper parts of Mississippi. I was up at it's up above Boonville, Mississippi, up Tishomingo area.
Mm.
I've been roaming, and now, like I said, I took up residence in Tampa, Florida, by the Green Swamp. I keep hearing a whole bunch of stuff about it, so I decided to come down and see what it was about.
Oh,
It's been fun so far.
Seen anything interesting, or is that part of the?
Oh yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they got some big. Look, I don't know why, but they got some big old critters down here. I never would have believed I'd have found 16-inch plus tracks down here. From what I always seen, heard, and everything, the ones down here around Florida were smaller. Well, they got some big boys, kind of like what I got in my backyard, Mississippi, down here.
That's crazy. What have you seen over there, Sue?
Well, Florida. I've never been one to, worry too much about my own personal safety when I moved to Florida, because I thought I left a lot of that
stuff,
quote unquote, cryptid Dogman shit behind.
Yeah.
And then I fast found out that couldn't have been further from the truth.
So you'll have to tell Vault what you've been carrying underneath one of the truck seats.
Oh yeah, my pickup. Oh god, yeah. I don't give two shits. I don't go nowhere without it. I carry now I'm sure people say, oh, that's overkill. But when you've seen what I've seen, not that I'd want to be in a position to have to use it. I really would not want to be in a position to use it. I have a 50 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver. They call it the 500 Smith & Wesson.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Just hold. Have you shot it?
Oh yes. Oh
okay,
yes.
Yeah, you got.
I've had range officers come off the ground.
Yeah, it kills on both ends.
Yeah, the muzzle flash is amazing. I mean, it literally blinds you. It's like looking into the sun for a hot second.
Yeah. Around here, I done scared a couple of people because, like I said, I go armed everywhere I go, and Florida is not exactly. They like you to conceal. I don't like to conceal. I like everybody to know exactly what I have on me. That way, stupid people don't get stupid prizes. But I've been going around over here. I carry a 300 blackout with me in the woods over here in Florida. One of the guys like, if you carry a fishing, Florida's got some stupid rules. Now they don't want me to open carry, but I can put a fishing pole in my hands and I can carry any damn thing I want.
Yep. Openly. Or if you go to the range, going to the range, the same thing, hunting and fishing and to a range. Absolutely.
This is the craziest thing. You can actually fish down here and don't have to buy a fishing license as long as you catch and release.
Yep.
Well, that sounds like something right up Bass Mayhem's alley right
there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I told them I'm going to have to go get one of those little baby riding reels and strap on my back. That way they stop talking to me when I'm walking around out there with an AR-15.
What was that? That little telescoping reel, whatever it was? I can't. Ron Popeil had it. You remember that old TV
I know what you're talking about. The amazing rod or something like that. You could keep it in your glove box and all that kind of crap.
Yeah,
I remember those.
Yeah, I wish I could find something like that. I'd duct tape it to the back of my vest, and that way people would. You don't know how many times I've been stopped. What are you doing out here? I'm looking. What are you looking for?
Oh, the pocket fisherman. Jason Brooks, the pocket fisherman. Yeah, that's it right
there. Y'all want some interesting stuff? Go look at how many homeless people and stuff like that they found tore up in the Green Swamp. I didn't know this until I got down here and started researching. There's been a bunch, and they're recent, that people have went missing, and then they find bodies all tore up, and they're trying to say it was hogs. No, hogs don't do that.
Hogs, dogs, black bear, and come on, the black bear here in Florida look like
they're little bitty. Like I don't think two of them.
Yep.
They're little bitty. I'm talking about they may weigh a couple 100 pounds. I don't think two of them. No. The thing is, though, animals don't dismember bodies like that. They're dismembered.
Yeah. And if you've ever been, somebody that hunted, when you come across, say a dead animal, you're familiar with the area, you're familiar with the state, you're familiar with the wildlife, right, and the predators and whatnot. You come up on something, good and damn well what probably did it, and good and goddamn well that there ain't no way that, say, a pack of coyotes or a bear did this, even hogs.
Well, the odd thing is these reports are not getting out to mainstream, and that's something I'm going to start releasing is a lot of these reports. Because Shawn, have you heard about any homeless people mangled and dismembered in Florida?
It's been a minute, but I haven't been really paying attention to my RSS feeds here lately.
Well, I think it was a month or so ago. They found 2 months ago. They found two. I think it was two bodies. 2 months ago, they found two bodies just destroyed. Like didn't know it wasn't fed on. It was just destroyed. Two people.
Oh.
That's in 2 months. That was 2 months ago, and that ain't counting. You keep going back.
Oh yeah, and that stuff don't come out on the news because i.e., like most people are aware of without thinking about it, is Florida is a very big touristy area.
Yeah, they don't want to.
If they start putting shit out like that, people ain't gonna come floating around.
No, down there.
Hell no.
Well.
Black bear around here, or it can be any size from a big old greyhound to bigger. I've seen little bitty ones here around This town. I've seen
Well,
one.
I've seen two since I've been down here, and they're a couple. They may be 300 pounds if they're that big, and that's small for a bear.
Yes.
But like I said, I'm fixing to start putting out some of these reports and stuff because, like I said, I had no idea, and I didn't realize all the activity that's going on in the Green Swamp, and that ain't counting what's going on in that ain't counting what's going on in the Okeechobee.
Yep.
Like I said, that's a separate area that I'm fixing to start researching too. Like I said, there's so much crazy stuff that everybody's talking about. Well, we want. Okay, well, do what I did. Go start asking questions and stick your nose in places. All I can tell you is get lost.
And if you start asking questions to certain individuals, they'll, like, hey, blah, 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 you'll get that funky look and a no, you don't.
Oh, that makes me ask more questions.
Yeah, but they're hiding shit.
Well, like I said, I had no idea until I started looking around. So, like I said, and I would not have realized, especially the stuff the reports I've been getting and the stuff I've been finding out down in Florida. And there's so many dadgum tourist destinations down here and stuff. How is it not getting out? Somebody's got to be shutting it off, the information off, because like I said, it took me literally 2 weeks to find a report for 2 missing people that were not just killed, they were dismembered, they were mangled.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and another thing about the state of Florida, it's very transient. Okay, it's always been a transient state, and going back some time, we've always had homeless people. We have homeless people living in the woods all around here, especially like where I live in the county north of me, Marion, and one south, which is Hernando. And just speaking of the three, you always see homeless people and you knew who they were and about where they had, and people would leave them alone, for the most part, not heckle them, not bother them, police didn't get involved unless they got too close to excuse me, but we got money and we don't want to see that near our house. And then they'd have to ask them to leave the area. But you're talking hundreds of people, man. And I'm not talking about somebody that's a raging alcoholic and lost their way in life. I'm talking families of people, moms, dads, children.
Oh, yeah, they're
really
all
starting
over.
to migrate them up here.
That.
Yes. And this is no bullshit. A friend of mine retired a few years back. Let's see where he's at now. He's been there knocking on, next month will be 3 years. Prior to that, he lived at the leading edge of this county into Marion County. And he worked and retired from one of the super Walmarts. He worked there 15 years. And the last couple of years, so you're talking within 6 years, 5, 6 years, he would start telling me about, they would literally take bus loads, and I mean bus loads of homeless people from down around St. Pete, Tampa, Hudson, and the like, because they're building up fancier homes and everything, right? So they can't have those folks there. So they're busing them up here. Anybody on, what's called that, Section 8 housing, they're taking them by the busloads and then dropping them off in my county and the one north. And literally, we're dropping them off in the Walmart fucking parking lot. And that's a fact.
So
where are all these people going? You know what I mean? Because I know I used to go there grocery shopping every Saturday morning. Because I'd meet him there in the morning and get there a few minutes before he got off work, and we'd shop and shoot the breeze. And you'd start seeing, regular people hanging out there. Because right behind that is a wooded area as well. And, the things I had seen that, that don't exist. Bullshit, it don't. And I was really dealing with it pretty heavy 2015 and 2016 going into 2017 and into 2018 to the tune of I literally took that 50 cal and I would I went and bought a holster, and I'd slap that bitch to my thigh, and I'd have my SR9 in my back pocket, all with, you know, devastating rounds in it, you know, PPR, you know, special rounds and shit. I didn't care how much they cost. And I'd have a firearm everywhere in the house, everywhere in the house. And my boyfriend, you know, thought I was just having, you know, bad dreams, or, you know, I was just getting, you know, stressed out, and didn't believe me. Didn't believe me until one morning I literally left the house and left ruts in the, now we were renting that house at the time, and I literally peeled and rutted out that front yard. And I didn't stop for the stop signs. I just tore ass out of there to get to work, just to get the hell away. And I was having a lot of issues, you know, not mentally so much as just emotionally dealing with it, not sleeping, not eating. Now my certain friends, you know, believed me and would listen to me. You know, Pete, I told you, shit started happening over at his house. And he was starting to see certain things. And, oh God, I could go on forever. Yeah. And, it was, let's see, this is 2022. So we've bought this house now 4 years ago, May 30th passing here, just last month. And at first, when I moved over here, which is not really that far from the house we were renting, but I had a more better vibe, you know, I felt more safe. Within a few weeks, I was starting to get that, you know, once you deal with something for so long, you start getting little keys handed to you, you know, certain energy, you know, with certain feelings. And I'd have to come out on the back porch here and grill, and after dark, and I'd have all kinds of lights on. I'd be strapping. I'd have some shit. I'd have shit leaning up on the inside of my door, you know. And I made it, like I was telling everybody, I back then, before all it seemed to follow me, I was so shaken up. I was starting to search out somebody to talk to about it that might have how can I deal with this, you know, because I knew I wasn't losing my mind. Because I've been dealing with this shit for 2 states, and you know, I'm 51 years or 51 years old, so you're talking a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And but who do you trust? So I happenstance across a certain individual that wanted me to come on his program, and I flat out refused because certain licenses and credentials and shit, God help you, they find out. So I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to, you know, talk to him to get it off my chest, right? And maybe this person who pretended to give a shit would have some answers for me. And it ended up where several different times and many hours of conversation, and he couldn't poke, prod, or get me to come forward, but he was kind of playing the nice guy. And so he invited me into a closed group. And he has this way of, oh, welcome so-and-so to the group. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want you to say who I am. You know, I don't want attention drawn to me. And I was starting to get, you know, because when you have Facebook Messenger attached, and these people, I didn't know them from Adam, started, you know, first it started in, you know, if I'd comment on something, like put out a pearl of wisdom to somebody, like, you know, that I believed without question was having a real issue. And a lot of it, I was, you know, when you've been dealing with something so fucking long, you know, and you hear somebody start, you know, commenting or writing mile-long comments and paragraphs of situations, or speaking, you know, out and about on it. They're either one, embellishing the hell out of it, or they're totally full of shit. And I was starting to get this, I need to back out of it. So I pulled out of that. I didn't give no information. You know, a lot of people are trying to hit me up I'm like, no. And then I got a phone call from him, And it wasn't a, hey, I'm going to call you on this date. It was, boom, my phone's going off. And, hey, it's me, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, hey, well, I was just wondering, anything else going on? Yes. Well, why don't you tell me about it? I said, no. And he's like, well, why not? I said, look, man, I said, I came to you in confidence, 100% private confidence. And I said, I'm not saying that you got your dogs on my trail. I'm just saying that this is not what I was looking for. I said, I was just hoping from what you put out there that you can either put me in contact with somebody with similar issues, right, that's willing to communicate with me so we can either figure this out together, or maybe there's something that I'm missing that I can do to stop this or eliminate it as best as possible, whatever. And he totally blew me off and said, well, what I am asking you is if you'll come on my show Friday night. And I said, I was not polite. And so in turn, he went off on me, and I said some,
well, I'm going to tell you something that I'm going to give you a little advice about the Bigfoot, especially the Dogman community. Anytime you speak out about a couple of different subjects, especially about a couple of different channels, I'm not saying it here because this is my buddy's show, this ain't mine. You will get hate, you will get everything else. But this community, the Dogman and the Bigfoot community, in the past several years beyond, has been the most corrupted bunch of fighting. I don't understand it. That's the reason why I tried to build what I've been building with Shawn's help, Bass's help, several other people's help, is a place to come in. It's a place to come in where you don't get judged, where you tell your story. If they believe it, they believe it. If they don't, they go on to the next story. The thing is, no one was there when this happened to you. I wasn't, Shawn wasn't nobody else. He gave you a platform to tell your story. They either believe it or they don't believe it. I gave up a long time ago trying to get people to believe stuff. All I'm doing is letting people know that this stuff is out there. You can go out there and not believe it and get yourself in a stupid situation. I believe it and know it's out there and got myself in plenty of stupid situations.
Oh,
that's the reason why I like myself. Shawn. Look, Shawn does a show on just about everything. There's a few topics he doesn't touch. I understand that. There's a few topics I don't touch. There's some people that like me, some people that hate me. If you don't like me, there's a slide over button, block a button, whatever. Frankly, Shawn, I don't care. If you don't like me, that's just one less Christmas card. But like I said, this is the thing. I'm glad you came on Shawn's show to tell your story. Thank you for telling it. Like I said, it intrigued me. I wanted to call in the Shawn show. I ain't called in a while.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, man, I'm fixing to get out of here and let y'all two have it. I just wanted to stop in and ask her a couple of questions. I thought I heard her allude to two up there where she was talking about the story was, and then I thought I heard her say something about Florida a while ago.
Oh yeah,
and I was just curious.
For sure.
And she ain't very far from where I am. So, like I said, this stuff is. This is an even bigger active area down here than my freaking backyard. That's kind of hard to believe, but like I said, I've been settled down too long to one place, and I'm fixing to start doing I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to traveling, gathering this stuff, and I'm going to be putting out there what these other people don't want to put out there. Like I said, the missing people, the people that are being found torped. This stuff is not in the local news. It's not in no news. Nobody else is talking about it. So why not? Either they can, all they can do is fuss. All they can do is fuss and try to shut me up. But that's not going to work. That just makes me talk louder.
As it should be.
So when we get that laugh out of you before you leave.
Oh, yes, sir. And probably tomorrow night or the next night, I'm going to try to do a live. I don't know. Like I said, I'm in the process of getting some equipment together. I've got to get a laptop, and I've got to get one of those little mobile podcasting stations, because I'm fixing to go really big mobile starting here in the next probably week or so, and then I'm going to be doing a show at the conference. And on the way from the conference, there's no telling where I may show up. But y'all keep on watching the channel. Thank y'all for everybody that stayed subscribed. I'm sorry I've been gone for a while. Like I said, I had some personal stuff I've been working out. I'm fixing to come back, and if you think if the people didn't like me before, they're really going to hate me now. But to everyone, good night, sweet dreams, and thank you.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Thank
Well, that's
you.
Ball of Nightmares, man. Can't miss him, especially with that laugh. Appreciate you, brother.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. So big thing. What was the last time that you saw anything in Florida?
Let's see. It would have been last summer. No, that's a lie. It'd have been this past spring. It was this past spring, January into February, over at my friend's house in the town, in a couple towns over. I was over there working on their home. At that when it first started, like I said, like one of the people in the chat asked me one day. They had asked me, a question about how they see. I don't like putting words in people's mouths.
Mm-hmm.
Something along the lines of going from, did I think they were? Oh, look at that! There goes a bunny rabbit. I think they were, certain people only. Kind of like, did I feel like they were, real living, breathing things, portals, things of that nature. And I, flat out said, anybody can see these things. Anybody. And then somebody had asked, do I think they follow me? And for the longest time, and if I were to say, oh, I don't believe that, I would be lying, because I really, really have to wonder, now something that large, okay, can travel a great distance in a short amount of time, very short amount of time. Because I've seen a few, like the one outside my front door at the rental, and then not but a week or two after that, heading to work on a back road, run from left to right in front of my pickup truck, just inside the headlights, right? So at the distance, just inside the headlight. And I had them on dim. I had switched them to dim because in certain areas, when you come up over around a corner and up a slight hill, certain houses have certain types of lights on them at the road, and it can fool you thinking they're headlights, right? So I just naturally went to dim, and right inside the spectrum of where my light shone, I seen a Dogman. It was like a blackish gray running left to right, and I could absolutely make it out, but this thing was moving so damn fast, it was almost blurry, almost. It's like you're sitting at a red light or a stop sign, and you're coming up on a heavily traveled road, and cars are flying by. Shoo!
Mm-hmm.
It was similar to that, is the speed at which this thing was moving, and it just happened to be not a 16th, roughly, or less of a mile from an area where they were running. They were opened up a big area for natural gas lines from a gas plant in the county of Levy. So they had come in and they had cleared out all the trees and brush and everything. And can't judge it off the top of my head, but a wide swath, right?
Right.
Which cut across, people's backyards, literally, and across different highways. And I remember I was thinking as I was passing that type of an area going, man, this would be one hell of an area to see something like that. You know, you can see for quite, you know, as far as you can see either direction, you know, wide open if there was more light. And I thought that, and then I came to a hill that it was a good enough incline. You couldn't see what was coming because it came up and banked. So I was like, oh yeah, you know, like I said, it was like kind of bright. I was coming up to, and I automatically went from bright to dim. And when I did that, all of a sudden from left to right, shoo, this thing was running. And if I had to guess at about the height, I'd say 7 to 7.5 feet tall.
Well, we got
and the build was like a athlete.
Got a friend of mine, Paranormal Heart, Kate. Whoa. Oh, Cat Ward is asking, do you want to be on her show? Paranormal Heart. She's a Canadian. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. I'll get you guys hooked up. You mind if I was... Let's see. Do you have Facebook? I can't remember if you... Oh, no.
I got bounced off of that.
You got bounced off that. I'll get you hooked up some way, shape, form.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry about that, Kat. I don't know what the hell's going on with my speech. I'm kind of... You should see me write. I look at some of the crap that I write, go back and said, okay, I don't know who the hell wrote that, but apparently I had a stroke at that. Those are the last few minutes, but who?
It's okay. I do it myself.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, UFOs. I know I've said UFO. Let's have a UFO story now.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a good one. And God, it was like one of those things that happened to you that you have a hard time believing in. My friend Paulie that passed away last year.
Yeah.
Like I said, you hang out with me long enough,
you're going to see
and
something.
Weird shit starts to happen. We were taking a ride down to Daytona Beach, and we stay off a whole lot of the heavily traveled areas just for congestion, you know, and people drive like maniacs as it is. And, you know, it's when we go, any of us go traveling anywhere, we like to enjoy it, you know, not be on edge. So we were we always traveled the same damn way, right? We always went there the same way and came back the same way. So this was about the fourth time we went down there, and decided, you know, I wanted to go down there and check out the nightlife. So I'm driving. Okay, I had a 92 Ford F-150 Super Cab with the cap on it. You have a picture of that truck. We were coming back from Daytona. It was probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. We had gone down to, trying to remember the name of the bar, Boot Hill Saloon. The Boot Hill Saloon. Because he always talked about it, and I hadn't been down there, so we went down there. You know, made the day of it. We didn't get schnockered, okay? I don't do that when I drive. If I'm going to, I stay put.
All right.
Okay, so it was none of that, or anything else for that matter. And it was about roughly about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Decided to head back, and that had been on a Sunday morning. And we got out of, let's see, we might have been on the road 30, 45 minutes, give or take, right? And can't remember the name of the road off the top of my head, but anyways, it's a divided highway. Okay, you have 2 lanes going in both directions now it could have changed by now, but it had a decent sized grassy medium in between. There were nothing but, like, maybe it once was like farmland, maybe somebody had some horses or cattle or whatnot, right? Very sporadic. No stop signs for through traffic. No stoplights, none of that shit, right? It's like being out on a back road that's asphalted. And I knew we were getting ready to come up to a right turn that I needed to make. And we were just shooting the breeze. And every now and then I'll look over at a speed limit sign, you know, just to make sure I ain't going to get pulled over and get a big fat speeding ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to look over and it said 55. So I was doing about 60. So I slowed down to 55 because I was, you know, like I said, I was slightly tired, but not overly tired. If I felt I was unsafe, I'd have pulled over. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. So I went, okay. And I remember I took my foot off the gas. So that's how fast I had. I take my foot off the gas pedal and I look in front of me and it just doesn't look right. So I look over towards Paul's direction, right, to my left or my right, and I see another speed limit sign that says 45. And I remember making the remark, what in the fuck? You know, because usually you'll have quite a distance before anything drops down. And so I look down at my speedometer and I'm doing about 53, 54 because that truck has speedometer. It did not have digital. So I look at that. I start taking my foot off the gas just to allow it to naturally decline in speed. And I almost heard a voice in my head go, look up. And I looked up and you can no longer see the median, you know, right, the grassy median.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't see the oncoming traffic lane. And the traffic that I was in, there was nobody in front of me, behind us. We hadn't seen a vehicle since 5 minutes after leaving. Okay. That's how desolate it was. And I couldn't see the road in front of me came to like a dead end. It was just, everything was blackness, but it had form to it. I couldn't tell you quite how tall because, like I said, I'm traveling at a, you know, decent rate of speed and everything's happening at once. So I can't pull myself up on the steering wheel and kind of look up as far as I could on the windshield. But I seen Paul do it, you know, and I'm like, what the fuck? And next thing I know, I'm like right at it. It's like I was bracing for impact. Okay. I was bracing for impact. And next thing I realize, I'm going right over left as fast as I can, turning my wheel to the right. Now, understand, I'm not got my foot on the brake or the gas at this point. I'm just whipping that wheel to make like it was like a 90-degree corner, or you're going to run into something that looks metallic, but you didn't know if it was metallic. It wasn't concrete, right? It was like a void, but a solid void. It was so black. It had sheen, and it seemed like the blackness, how would you put it? Like absorbed my headlights, you know, because everybody knows who's ever driven after hours, right? After dark, I don't care where you're driving, you see a certain distance, whether you have brights or dims on. This was like 2 feet in front of my headlights ceased to exist. And this black, and I say it was like a sheen. It looked metallic without the shine to it, right? Like I said, it was like absorbed the headlights. And it looked like it went from the ground, right on the ground in front of my truck, as far up as you could imagine. And I'm like, oh my God. And you know, Paul wasn't saying anything. He was, you know, I could see his feet from my peripheral vision to the right. I could see both of his feet on my dashboard. He had one hand dug into the seat by his ass, and the other hand, his right hand, on the oh shit bar. And his mouth was wide open, but nothing was coming out. And I'm, without even thinking about it, like I said, I'm going hand over hand, my right and left hand over hand, and literally turning my steering wheel as fast and as hard as I could to the right. And it's like, all of a sudden, and I do mean all of a sudden, my truck is doing the Tokyo Drift. And I say that only because that movie came out, Tokyo Drift, and I remember them showing cars, right, at high speeds.
Yeah.
All of a sudden taking a 9-degree corner and they slide sideways. That's what my truck was doing. But instead of going forward, it was like something had placed us, including my truck, right, on a 90-degree angle on the road, to the right immediately. And you got to understand, I'm still turning that wheel to the right, but it's like I wasn't in control of it, either the vehicle nor myself. And it was like we come flying sideways. We're literally sliding left and at a very high rate of speed. It felt like faster than I was actually driving. It's the only way I can describe it. And I'm literally, I understand, my topper was on the truck at the time, and it has 4-wheel drive clearance. Okay. And when you have a vehicle that has a higher center of gravity, it's easy to roll them. And I was literally hanging on with bated breath, expecting my driver's side front and rear tire to catch the road and us to literally flip, like barrel roll. And I remember thinking, not just thinking this in my mind at the time, but also picturing it, like, oh shit. And I remember I'm probably pretty sure I said it out loud. Okay. I'm pretty sure I said it out loud. I said, oh shit, this is going to leave a mark. And I'm thinking, how am I going to, this is going to be great when my boss gets a phone call on Monday that I didn't show up, and he starts calling around and somebody's going to say they scraped our asses off the asphalt, they're dead. And just as those thoughts and my mouth flew open about it, my truck stopped sliding. It was in the forward lane, right? The lane I should be in, right? Not oncoming traffic lane, but in my lane, straight forward. And my hands were where they always are when I'm driving, and they weren't going hand over hand. They were normal. And I said it out loud at the same time Paulie did. Are we fucking dead? And I had to pull over. I literally, I didn't turn on turn signal. I just slowed way down and got off the shoulder and put that truck into park. And I kept looking at him. And I said, are we dead? Are we dead? And he's looking around. He's shaking. And he's looking at me, and he's like, his mouth is wide open, catching flies, but it's like his lips were moving and nothing was coming out. And then he finally said, oh my God. He goes, did we just die? Is this what it's like to have a bad accident, right? And you don't realize you're dead yet? And so we pinched each other's arms really hard. And of course, we're like, smack each other on the hand. Go, don't do that. That fucking hurts. All right. So we knew we were awake. And we sat there and, looked in the side mirrors. I didn't roll down the windows. He didn't roll down the window. And I'm just, looking out where I could see through the rear view mirror on the inside, even though I know it was I had the capper on and it's tinted. For whatever reason, we were looking in that. We're looking at the side mirrors. And I said, what the hell just happened, man? What the hell just happened? He goes, I'm not sure. He goes, but I'll guarantee you whatever that was did this. And I goes, did we just like drive into a UFO? And he's like, I think we did. And he goes, he started to cry a little bit. And I've never seen him cry. And, like tears are running down his face, like just starting to. And he goes, I don't know about you, Sue, but if you don't put this truck in gear and punch it, he goes, I'll drive. I'll drive. He goes, we need to get the hell out of here. And we did. And the whole trip, all the way back to Citrus County, neither one of us spoke a word. And over the next few days, we were trying to, our close friends were telling them about it. And at first they're like, you guys are so full of shit. And then they, for whatever reason, were like, was it a UFO? And we're like, what else could it have been? Because it was solid. It's like you take one of those concrete barriers you see when they're doing road construction, right? How they're thick.
Oh, yeah.
But this thing wasn't concrete. It was like you take something like that and you block everything from somebody's driver's side window over and up. You take everything about 2 feet in front of that vehicle completely, right? And stack them up so high they can't see above or around it. and you paint it. Like I said, it wasn't a flat black. It had some kind of shine to it, like sheen, but without, you know, having no reflection. Had no reflection, but you knew it was solid. And we had no idea where the fuck it came from. We spent months talking about it. We also went back several times during the day, same route, all the way there and back in the daylight, and then again at night, looking for that area, looking for that spot, looking to see if, you know, maybe they were, like I said, we were trying to tell ourselves that it was some kind of road construction, which is total bollocks, you know, total bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But just to try to keep your sanity. And it was literally like, here it comes. Oh shit. And I was like inside my body watching it go down. And it was like something else took over. Like I said, it was before, because everything happened so fast. You got 55, 45, boom, it's right there. Oh shit. For whatever reason, all of a sudden my arms are doing the hard right turn. I mean, hard right turn. You can't see anything at best 2 feet in front of you. Literally, like everything just disappeared and there's nothing but blackness. And then you feel the motion, okay? You feel the motion of sliding sideways, like I said, a Tokyo drift feeling.
Oh yeah.
Because it was just like being in the freaking movie, except you're the movie. And I'm literally waiting for those tires on the driver's side to catch and flip that truck and barrel roll into oblivion. And then, boom, you're going from a 4-lane, you know, 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other way, divided highway with a fairly sizable grassy median in between, to a 2-lane going in both directions road. And it happened to be the right that I needed to take that was coming up within a half a mile or so. Because I just kept driving because I didn't know where I was. And this pickup truck in particular had 2 gas tanks. And all you had to do is flip the switch on the fly.
Oh yeah.
And
that's
both of those tanks were always full. You know, I'd stop and fill them. Once one got down to, you know, 3/4 or a half, I'd fill it up. So, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it was like I'll drive until I come across a town or an area that looks familiar, and then get the bearings and then correct course. But we were on the correct course. Explain that.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Donnie, if you say that one more time, says I think steak is overrated, I'm going to kick you out of my chat, man. Steak is absolute. Throw bacon on top of that, you can't beat that, man. I got a quick question for you from Rothian. Says, for topic of paranormal, has Catalyst ever had any guardian spirits or helpful entities show themselves? That question of who does she have helping her is itching on me.
I don't know. At one point in time, after I got here to Florida,
yeah,
I was going through a rough divorce. I wanted the divorce. Let's just say that. Okay, I wanted it. I didn't want arguing, fighting. I didn't want the ugliness. I was willing to walk away from the property, the house, and everything. Right? Just take it and goodbye. Leave me alone. Let me move on. And that was not what I was given. Long story short, this particular lady that I had gotten to know a few years prior told me, and I absolutely wholeheartedly believe me, because what she came out of her mouth and recorded, she'd have to been me, period. You know, the things she knew. And she described, she didn't say entity. She said, she called him, he's a master, is what she said. He's a master. And then she described him to me, what he looked like. And he has been with me since the day I was born. and he will be with me when I transition, pass away. And that when I sleep, right, every night that I go to sleep, I leave my body and I go into, she said, it's like a building, but it's not a building. She said, it's iridescent. It's almost like this, like a university that's alive. And this man is the master. And he had white hair, long white beard. He had a white robe that shined. She had the brightest white you've ever seen, and it didn't hurt to look at. And he had not like a belt, but it was likened it. The way she described it, it was like a literally flowing gold braided rope type thing that was like almost seemed alive in itself. And he was the teacher, right? He was my teacher. He came into this life for spiritual development, and he would be with me until I passed away. And she said to me, and this is what really creeped me out. She goes, "You ever watch?" It's kind of funny, but I'll say it anyway. I don't care what anybody says because it's exactly what the woman said. She goes, "Have you ever watched the movie Star Wars?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Star Wars. I remember Star Wars." I said, "Yeah, I watched it. It was like fifth, sixth grade or something." And she goes, "Okay." She goes, "Do you remember Obi-Wan Kenobi?" I started laughing. I said, "Yeah, I remember his character." Yeah. She goes, "Well, when they say the Force, right?" I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yes." She goes, "The Force is very strong with you." She goes, "But it's like you're afraid of it." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "The Force is a real thing." She goes, "It's spiritually a real thing. It's God, you know." She goes, "It's the only way I can describe it to you for you to understand is by saying God, source, the one creator, right? God." And I said, okay. She goes, "Right." She said, "And I see you standing there since a small child. And you're standing at this door. And you can see a light through the other side, the keyhole, right?" She goes, "Those skeleton keys and door locks and stuff." I said, "Yes. My mother, the house I grew up in was well over 100 years old back then. I know what you're talking about." She goes, "Okay. Well, I see you as a small child seeing that light, and you go over to it and you look inside. Every once in a while you peek in there and you'll turn the doorknob and you'll open it up and then you'll slam it shut." And I'm like, and she goes, "That's the best way I can describe to you what I'm being shown." She goes, "If you would just open that door and leave that door open." She goes, "Have you ever heard the name?" What the hell is his name? Oh gosh, I can't think of. Maybe somebody there in the listening, or you could remember his name. He was popular. I remember I've seen his shows a couple times. I think he wrote a book or something. Young Edwards, something Edwards, John Edwards. And I said, yeah, he's a psychic medium or something that has these shows. I don't know if it was on Oprah or
I saw
something.
him. Actually, on my TikTok thing, I saw him doing a live not too long ago. I was like, just it's been like a hot minute since I've seen him. He did this little thing where he saw people coming forward, stand behind people in the audience. I was
that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, she goes. So she asked me, who John Edwards is, and I started laughing. And then one of her dogs, she had like 8 dogs, and they'd all come in to this room, and she would record it. You'd bring a empty cassette tape, and she'd put it in an old school cassette recorder, right? She put that in there, and before she did that, she'd write the date on it, and then she'd put it in there, and then she would record the whole damn thing. And so, I laughed, and one of her Dobermans started to growl, not at me, because as soon as I heard him growl, because he was laying almost across my feet, and he started to growl a little bit to the left corner, a little bit like uneasy. The other dogs were like, could care less. They were like sleeping or something. And I remember that specifically when I started to laugh. And she got kind of upset with me. She goes, "This isn't a joking matter. I'm very serious." I said, "I'm sorry. Yes, I know who you're talking about." And she goes, "Good." She goes, "If you would just open that door and leave it open," she goes, "you could make John Edwards look like a parlor trick." I still have that cassette.
Oh, really?
That was years and years ago. She became a friend to the point where she even offered me to be a, what do you call that when somebody's training you?
Mentor?
Huh?
Mentor?
Yeah, like she'd be my mentor, and then she would teach me. And I kind of got creeped out, not from her. I never got that from her. It was just always stellar feeling off of her, right? And it's like I immediately knew that this woman was not full of shit in the least. She was the real McCoy. And some people, there's terms, right? And that people use either to call themselves or other people. Like she was a angelic psychic medium. And throughout my life, once in a blue moon, somebody'd ask me, "Well, what are you?" I said, "I'm just me. I don't call myself anything. I don't subscribe to this, that, or the other. It's fine for everybody else. That's that. Whatever. I'm just me. That's how I look at it. I'm just me. I'm just Sue. I just happen to have a, Abby normal, life existence, and I'm cool with it.
Abby normal. Abby something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
just you know what I mean. I'm just me. I don't consider myself psychic. I don't consider myself a medium. I don't consider myself empathic. I don't consider myself any of the gauntlet. I'm just me trying to understand exactly what I am, and I've never found it. And I'm good with that. But, so anyhow, I almost lost track of what I was talking about. Oh, UFOs.
UFOs.
So that happened, right? That really happened. That ain't no bullshit. That happened.
Oh,
And,
man.
yeah, to this day, I'm blown away. Couple years before that happened, this is when I was married back in the day, and woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know why. It was like I had to go use the bathroom, or I was thirsty, or I heard a noise. I just woke. I remember I sat up in the bed, and our bed was between two windows. Right, they were like almost floor length, not really wide, but more narrowish, and almost to ceiling height on either side of the bed. And when I sat up, I realized how much light was coming into the bedroom through both windows. And neither of the dogs were in the bedroom. Like Thor, he would go sleep in the living room on the couch. And Dakota would always lay at the threshold with his head pointing outward, right? Like he'd lay in that direction where his ass was facing us, but facing the inside, and his head was facing out. And I realized, oh, what's up with that? Because if there was anything going on, those dogs would let you know. I thought, wow, it's so bright, the moonlight. And when I remember thinking that, it was like somebody had both their hands on my ears, blocking sound. And it was like almost like my ears wanted to pop. And then all of a sudden, my left ear started to ring. I mean, like I've spoken about it before on your show. It's just this high pitched, not quite annoying ring to it, and it get come in real, like low volume kind of, and then get really high volume, and then just dissipate to nothing. And I thought, damn, that's weird. And I kind of poked my finger in my left ear, going, what the hell? And then I decided, for whatever reason, I got out of the bed and I stood in front of the window next to my bed, and I'm expecting to see past, over the trees, the moon. a full moon. It was that bright. And there was no full moon. And if there was, it wasn't in the area that it shined the light like that through the windows. I recognized that immediately, and I thought, how odd. Where was this light source, right? And I'm like, I really don't feel it. I got the sense to not go outside, right? Just like I made the decision, well, my ass is not going out there to check it out. And so I stood there at the window for a second, and I'm kind of plastering the right side of my face up against that window to try to see up as high as I could to see where the hell this light's coming from, because it made no sense. I lived in an area where people at minimum had 2.25 acres, and few and far between. It was like farmland where they had cattle or horses, and we just happened to buy a smaller piece of property. I didn't want the responsibility for all that property. You know what I mean? Upkeep and everything. Right. Didn't have the time to. So I'm looking anyway, and I got this. From what I could see and sense, it felt like whatever it was somehow above where I could see it, right? Above the house, but more towards the direction I was looking, but high enough where I couldn't see it. But it didn't make sense, because the way the light was coming in, it should be in front, just above the tree line, and lighting everything up. And it wasn't like that. It was like controlled beams of light to the source I couldn't see at the time. And I thought, well, nah. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go lay back down in bed, and fall asleep and pretend I didn't see that, And as that thought crossed my mind, all of a sudden I hear this low hum. There isn't nothing that I can tell somebody it sounds like a humming refrigerator or AC unit. It wasn't a hum like that. It was not really loud, but it was noticeable. And it didn't hurt your ears or anything. Like I said, the dogs didn't even stir. Because I even looked behind me for a second, and Dakota was just like, he was out like light. And I thought, how strange. So I took one more look out the window, and all of a sudden, it's like somebody turned the lights out. You know what I mean? Like with a switch. Boop. It's like you're standing inside your house, and you got a window and a door, and you're looking out the window, and you know where the source is coming from, even though you can't see the light. And you flip the switch, and the lights go out. It was like that. Just that fast. All of a sudden, boop. And I remember thinking, what the F? And then movement, if you will, caught the corner of my right eye. Movement. And there was it wasn't a distinct shape. Let's just say that. It wasn't a distinct shape. It was more light than it was a shape. Think of orbs, right? Like round like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then see, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they were not quite straight across. They kind of almost like a smirky smile, kind of went like the one on the left, and then the next one down, kind of slight slope down, and then the one to the right was exactly across from the one on the left. And they weren't pulsing, right? It was like if you grabbed if you ever had a chandelier or a ceiling light that you could turn the knob or the switch up and down to brighten and dim it. A dimmer switch. All right. It was kind of like that. It would get dim and bright and dim and bright. And they didn't change colors, like definite blue, green, red, orange, yellow. But they were a yellow, like a very pale yellow, and almost a silvery white. and they were. It's like it looked like it should have been far away, but it really wasn't. So I guess it was a big, like whatever it was smaller. You know what I mean? Because I could tell it was. I had two and a quarter acres, right? So the where the bedroom faced, I was at 50 feet from the road, and I had blackjack oaks that weren't, 15 to 20 feet at the tallest, right? So when it came into frame, so to speak, into my line of sight, it literally showed up from my right to the not quite center, and I could tell that this, whatever it was maybe 10 to 15 feet above the trees, and it would, like I said, it wasn't pulsing. It was more like a dimming and brightening.
So what color was it?
And
was it?
It was you couldn't see a shape.
Okay.
Of it, right? It wasn't a shape at all. It was like 5 orbs in a line, like the perfect, distance in between. And they were like a pale yellow, like around the edges, all of them. And then the middle, right up to those edges, was like a silver white, like a silvery white. It wasn't reflective. You knew it was light. And they just kind of got, not like going all the way dim to all the way bright. It was just like dim, bright for a few seconds. And then it was gone. Again,
So
like flicking on a light switch.
So this string of lights, 5 lights in a row, and they're equal distance apart. Did they move separately, like they were undulating, like a snake would in a line, or just straight line?
It was like they were, as if they were attached. You know what I mean? By something that you couldn't see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did it make any noise? Anything like that?
No.
Nature? Okay.
No, the only noise I noticed was just before I seen it was like a low audible humming. It didn't sound like machinery, clunky. Like I said, like a refrigerator running, or you're like when your AC unit kicks in, or nothing metallic or mechanical. It was, and not like somebody could go, not like that either. It was distinct into itself. And it was audible, like it was closer than it looked, but it wasn't obnoxious. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not. It was almost soothing to hear. I mean, I didn't get scared or not. I was like more fascinated than anything. And then I tried to wake Roger up. I'm like, oh my God, I seen a UFO. And it took me a minute, but he snapped out of it. And of course, he kind of jumped up. What are you talking about? And I'm like, over here, no, over here. Look. And he's like, what? I said, it was like right there. And, all this. And he's like, that don't make no sense. If you seen something like that, the dogs would have been alerted, especially right. Dakota. Dakota didn't bark, right? Dakota never barked. He would either howl, which wasn't very often.
Now, this was
if he was going to make any
mix?
noise, it was like a growl.
Was this the wolf mix?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep. And then we had that blue and fawn. Oh my God, that same bunny rabbit. That's weird. Anyway, sorry. I just can't believe that bunny rabbit's that close to me at all. But anyhow, sorry, distracted.
That's all right.
But we had a American Staffordshire Terrier blue pit bull. His name was Thor.
That's a mouthful.
And yes, and he was a barker. All right. If he knew the people, he would do like a couple woof woofs, and come and get you or look at you like, come here, somebody's here. He'd let you know. If he didn't like something for whatever reason, he'd be ferocious. You know what I mean? So, I knew their behavior exceedingly well. And I didn't see Thor at all. I didn't even go out in the living room to check because I figured he was on the other side of the wall, curled up in a ball in the middle of the couch, like usual. And Dakota was where he always parked it, and that was in the open door to the bedroom with his butt laying inside and his face facing outward. Always. And he was sleeping right through it, which is, you couldn't sneak into that. My ex-husband back then decided to hit the bars a little later than usual, right? And he wouldn't answer his cell phone. So, he was on my shit list, right? He was in the doghouse, so to speak. So I thought, well, I ain't gonna wait up on him. I'm going to go to bed, and I'll hear Dakota, and Dakota will alert me, and then Thor will alert me that somebody's rolling into the driveway. Well, he thought he was slick. He thought he would turn the lights off down at the corner of the property as he's coming up the road, shut the lights off, and then quietly roll into the driveway. Shut the engine off and just kind of roll into the driveway between the house and the garage. Now, understand, I was dead asleep, and then Dakota had come in. What woke me up, Dakota had come into the bedroom and shoved his wet nose between my left ear and my neck and was pushing, pushing me. And I could hear Thor, and I knew where he was because I have a big picture window that faced the deck, that faced the driveway, and that was between the house and the detached garage. And he was doing that woof, woof, because Daddy never comes in trying to, be sneaky. So he was, whatever. And then, of course, you could hear him walking across the linoleum floor, click, 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 and his butt wagging right along with him. And so I went into the bathroom. I peeked out the window. And I thought, you son of a bitch, So like I said, these animals would alert you. It would alert you. And they weren't doing anything. And I found that odd.
It is odd. Oh,
that was very odd.
Years ago, when I had a couple of dogs, my terrier mix, he almost looked like he was a pit bull, but he's just a yipper. Yip, yip. I was told that this thing would know when I was headed home, no matter where I was coming from or whatever. I could be pointing in the opposite direction as soon as I made my mind up. Stewie, would start yipping like crazy. A good 15, 20 minutes before I'd make it home.
I absolutely believe you, because my animals would act a certain way, If Roger was home, or if my stepchildren were there, they would tell me about it too. When I come in the door, oh, we knew you were on your way home. Well, how do you know that? Because you always get home at the same time. And we started paying attention, and we knew when you got off, and that would be when they would act up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't work at the job I worked at. My time coming home always varied. It wasn't, Shawn, I'm making home at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever. I could be on the road. I can remember driving on the road half the day and visit 2 sites. Be back, and they would know, these 2 little freaking dogs. Well, no, I'm coming home. I could be wherever in Virginia or over, Tennessee or, pretty close to Kentucky. I'd be heading home, and they'd start acting up.
I'm telling you, the animals have a sixth sense.
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
I mean, Yeah, it is crazy, but and it's cool at the same time. It's not just wild animals, that they talk about that act a certain way when, um, like a natural disaster is about to hit, be it a tsunami, an earthquake, um, even hurricane. Where certain animals that are along the shores, all of a sudden, different types of fish and marine life will, within a certain period of time of the hurricane coming to make landfall, all of a sudden they're not found. You know, they do. It's like they're in tune with the earth,
Right.
and I feel that way about pets. Dogs included, birds and cats even.
Well, I never said I'd love a cat. I'm allergic to cats, but I cats, a Siamese and a little yellow tabby, orange tabby. And
Yeah.
I privately loved the hell out of those two things, even though I was allergic to all get out. The Siamese, actually, her name was Puddin, Pudddi. My ex-wife got her, I think maybe barely could crawl in. We got one of those turkey basting pans. Litter box.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, made a litter box out of the fucking thing.
Well, why not?
Yeah, so she barely could. She was so small she could barely crawl into the litter box. But how the hell she got into the litter box, I couldn't tell you. But I was the only one after my ex-wife and I got a divorce. She'd call me and say, "Hey, Shawn, can you come over and clip Puddin's claws?" I was the only one that could do it, even though I was allergic, and I paid for it for 2 or 3 days after I touched her. Got the cat out of my house, but hell, what? Crazy.
That's cool, man. That really is.
Anyway, well, looks like 2 hours and 10 minutes worth of 2 hours and 12 minutes. Excuse me. Holy cow! Another interesting series of crazy stories. Looks like they've been talking about food in the old chat. All kinds of stuff. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and got a prayer. Well, actually, I'm just going to say I'm not. I'll say my usual prayer after this, but there's a few people that I really want to say a prayer for. Update for the folks that have been following me on on my other shows and my community page. Gracie, that little girl that had a head injury from an ATV accident a week or so ago. She has, I'm not going to say recovered, but she's got to the point where she can walk with assistance now. That is a miracle. That is absolutely a miracle. God be praised. I for sure watching after, and thank you. As prayed for that little lady, and got 2 other people. Carl, which is new friend, needs a prayer, and then we got Mike, Arlene's friend's husband, or not husband, fiance, had a massive heart attack and some life support. We need to pray for her and friend and her Mike as well. A quick prayer, and then we'll see and call it a night. One second. Reopen that. Dear God in heaven, thank you for this show. Thank you for everybody that's listening in. Dear God, help those that are in need, body, mind, and spirit. Ask for prayers for Gracie, Mike, Carl, family members, and their friends. Somebody needs help. Healing and of support to them. Lord Jesus Christ, in thy love and mercy, establish perimeter protection around all of us and our loved ones, those that pray for us and their loved ones. May the holy angels guard us and all our possessions, establishing perimeter protection around us, rendering us immune from any kind. Ask that no demonic bondage, door, demonic entity, portal, astral projection, or disembodied spirits. Place of 100 yards in all directions of us. Ask that any demons within the vicinity or any that should try to enter here be rendered deaf, dumb, and blind. That thou would strip them of all weapons, armor, power, illusion, and authority. That thou would bind, rebuke, and disable them from communicating or interacting with each other in any way. Move them, sending them directly to the foot of thy cross. Jesus, Son of the Most. Ask this in thy glorious and
Amen.
yeah, please, folks. Gracie, when I first heard about this little girl and accident with a massive head injury, first gut reaction where I was a respiratory therapist and seeing this kind of head injury was like, oh, she does recover to the point where she'll wake up, won't have any use of the right side. I don't know exactly how much use of her right side, but she's up and walking with assistance. And that is definitely a God miracle. Christ is in their lives for sure. And Mike, please pray for them. Mike and his family. Arlene's friend, Lori, I believe it was, if I can remember. Of course, Carl, Sue's friend. Holy cow. Hey, I'm going to have to come up with some sort of prayer chain or whatever. Hey, if you got somebody that wants to be on a prayer chain, why not? Email me at ShawnG@IamDarkWaters.com or during the live stream if you want somebody on. I will certainly update that prayer chain. Hey, I've actually got a brain cell that worked. Arlene said, yes, it is, Lori. I can't believe that. Well, I haven't had my usual cups of coffee today. Down by half, but there you go. Sue, thanks for being on my show yet again. I'm going to have you back on my show, and definitely we're going to keep.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, holy cow, folks. What? Honestly, after Saturday night show, we did 3 hours of her telling her Dogman stories. We talked till 3 o'clock that morning. And I was like, I got to go to bed. I'm sorry, but I got to go to bed. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Pam Smith says Ricky Biggs not dealing with the loss of. I will. Let me write this down. I will say a prayer for him. And needs on that list, I will definitely. Dear God, please bless Ricky Biggs and all their family members and send your angels, that family and friends. I will come up with some way of. I'll find out a way that is appropriate. Maybe list a prayer list once a week. If that is, if that becomes popular, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Not a problem with that. I am a firm believer prayer goes. That's the best thing that we've got going. But folks, now hold on a second. Let me get this. This Friday, I actually posted both my shows that I'm going to do this week on my channel already. So it's kind of unusual. It's not exceptional, but it's unusual. And I'm going to post my guests along with Tina Bice and Danielle Borzan, who was in the chat. We've got Christy from Haunted History Jaunts. hjaunts@yahoo.com if you want to email her. Psychic medium. She is investigated, from what I understand, Wagon Gate Prison and a bunch of other sites. And she's part of a paranormal group. I forgot the paranormal group's name. I kind of delved into that for a little bit. And cool from my perspective. But join me Saturday, or not. Yeah, Saturday night too. But Friday night, Southern Supernatural. And we'll have that. Crazy stuff. The I Believe
Cool.
podcast. Hey, buddy, what's going on? May. Love y'all. Sound keeps coming in and out. I love you too, Trina. Well, sound coming in and out, really? I would take, well, if it is. Ditto with the sound thingy. I don't. Oh, right. Well, it may be some. I don't know what's going on. Appreciate you, folks. And we'll get her going out of here. Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you Friday night.